Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. To introduce myself, my name is Alexis Bahl. I'm currently based in Vancouver, British Columbia, but I'm from the Midwest, so I'm new out here in the Pacific Northwest. And I am doing my PhD in biological oceanography at the University of British Columbia, where I study gelatinous zooplankton, and specifically I focus on salps, and I'm trying to estimate their contribution to biogeochemistry, but more specifically carbon export in the Southern Ocean. So that's
Okay,
what I do with in relation to the ocean.
wonderful. And so you started this PhD in 2020. I was
That's
wondering,
right.
yeah, and so there's been some global challenges that have been happening during that time as well. We still have the pandemic going on. So can you tell us some of the challenges that you managed to overcome in order to secure that position, and maybe some of the things that you've faced since you've been studying that PhD?
Yeah, so starting during COVID was pretty wild. Even just immigrating to Canada during that with my partner was pretty nutty, but we made it through. Um, Thankfully, all of my research is kind of done in the lab or on the computer as of now, so I didn't really miss out in any way. But as far as gearing up for the position, that was a couple years that of work that I put into that. And it really kind of started during my master's when I was doing my master's in environmental science and policy at Johns Hopkins University over in Baltimore. I was simultaneously doing research on physical oceanography with Anand Ganandesikhan. And this is the first time I really jumped into oceanography. It was the first opportunity I had to really conduct the research because I was, from the Midwest and I did my undergrad in Chicago. I never took any ocean courses, any marine science courses. So I really kind of like taught myself and volunteered over time, which is what led me to physical oceanography during my master's. So it was during this time that I started to see some knowledge gaps and data gaps with regards to biological components in the Southern Ocean. And it's identifying a knowledge gap that was the starting point for me in pursuing a PhD program, because that is definitely the first place to start. And then from there, I knew that I wanted to focus on Southern Ocean biological processes. So I started seeking out professors around the world, really, but there aren't that many people that specialize in zooplankton in the Southern Ocean with regards to carbon export. So it kind of dwindled down to a handful of people. And I reached out to my current advisor, Evgeny Kokomov, and after doing my research on him, reading about his current work, really what his expertise is in, I developed just kind of like a short summary as to how I thought I could contribute to his work. So then I reached out to him, had a meeting with him, and I kind of pitched this idea. And that was really key for applying to the program and getting my foot in the door, because often I even hear from my advisor now that he'll get contacted by people that don't necessarily have a plan of action or have a specific focus. So this was something that I kind of just did to put my best foot forward, and it ended up working in my favor. And yeah, and then I applied, and that was honestly probably the easiest part, was doing all of the paperwork. It was doing all of the legwork and finding him, and finding the program that I felt was best for me. That really was probably the biggest challenge.
And obviously it took a while, but really
Yeah.
paid off in the end. So that's so awesome now that you're actually studying. And is the relationship going well? Are you working well together?
Yes, yeah, we have a great working relationship. We really, the first time I met with him, I knew straight away that he was a good guy. And it's also, it's challenging and intimidating to apply to a program that is going to take 4 to 5 years, and you're applying to work with one person. And so it's kind of risky, but I'm so thankful that we do have a really good relationship, and yeah, I continue to learn from him every day.
That's so great. Okay, so we're just going to go quickly across to National Geographic. So tell us about your work there and what expeditions you've been involved with regards to National Geographic.
Yeah, so I just got awarded my National Geographic grant, and so I'm officially a 2022 explorer. Still so giddy and excited to say that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. So what I will be doing with National Geographic is I'll be going on my first expedition ever. It's coming up in just a few short weeks. I'm heading to the Southern Ocean with the Alfred Wegener Institute. They are based in Germany, and they have a research vessel called Polarstern. And Polarstern does year-round Arctic to Antarctic. So I have the opportunity to join them to go to the Southern Ocean for, it'll be about 7 weeks. We're departing from Cape Town and then going straight over to South Georgia, and then docking at Punta Arenas in Argentina. What I will be doing with them encompasses my National Geographic grant, and we'll be collecting salps and other zooplankton. And we're specifically looking at their behavioral trait to undergo this daily migration. And this is what I'm like most fascinated with, is because this daily migration researchers have known about for decades. They've witnessed it, but it's not until just recently that people started estimating how important it is for pulling down carbon from the atmosphere, and not only supplying it to deep sea food webs, but also sequestering it for long term, which can then help mitigate climate change. So we're looking at this specific trait, and it's through the National Geographic Society that I was, funded, me and my team, to go and do this. So yeah, that kind of encompasses what I'm doing with the grant. So yeah, that's to say I haven't been involved in any expeditions. This is my first one. And
amazing. Maiden voyage. And you say you got a team. So did you get to choose your team and put it together?
So my team comprises my advisor, our lab tech, and then another PhD student. I got to choose who I wanted to include in the grant, but these 3 people were pre-selected for the expedition 2 years ago. So it just allowed me to be able to support all of us all at once, and that's wonderful.
So cool. Oh, congratulations. So when do you leave? In a few weeks?
Yeah, I'm taking off for Cape Town on the 21st, and we're going to quarantine there for a few days, and the ship departs on October 1st.
Wow, great. Well, we'd love to hear your updates when you're at sea, if you have any internet. I don't know.
I've been told we'll have good Wi-Fi, so follow me on Twitter, and I will be blogging throughout the whole thing. Like it's going to be a full experience that I want everyone to join with.
Well, you've already really talked about it, like finding this knowledge gap about the daily migration. So has this been your most treasured discovery, and how do you think this area of research can contribute to achieving the science we need for the ocean we want by 2030?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's my discovery, because I definitely am piggybacking on previous research, but there's specific components to it, like salps, and more specifically Salpa thompsoni is the most abundant tunicate species in the Southern Ocean, and they have this 2 alternating life cycle stage. So part of my research is looking at do these life cycle stages exhibit different migration patterns? And then how do these different life cycle stages, because of these different migration patterns, contribute to carbon export in the Southern Ocean? So I'm hoping that we can answer this question, if not get closer to answering this question going on this expedition, because we will have the opportunity to use a deep sea high resolution camera. And this is the first time that someone will be basically observing the Salp migration pattern in this section of the Southern Ocean. So that will be really useful, and I hope that leads to a good discovery. And as far as to how it contributes to the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, I actually helped contribute to the Southern Ocean Action Plan that came out of the Ocean Decade. And this was a huge effort that a bunch of people contributed to through the Southern Ocean Task Force. And it was through the Southern Ocean Action Plan that they identified the various needs. And one of them is better understanding the biogeochemistry and the biological components and how they contribute to Southern Ocean structure and function. And so Salps, even though they are, small guys, they're anywhere from 0.5 to 20 centimeters, they're still really, really important for understanding these various processes. And so it's a small component of the Southern Ocean Action Plan, but this altogether fits into the UN Decade for Ocean Science. So I'm really happy about that.
That's so cool. So just to wrap things up, I was wondering, what is the thing you're most looking forward to about your expedition and being actually in the Southern Ocean? Are you going to take a dip in there?
I will not be getting in the water. I've been planning for this expedition since I started my program, so I really haven't been able to see past this. I am so excited for every part of it. And I think most especially it's getting to do this other component of science and research that I haven't had the opportunity, like deploying nets and deploying this camera and actively like collecting the zooplankton and looking at them immediately after they were caught. It's going to be so fascinating and allow me to learn a whole different part of ocean science that I haven't yet had the opportunity to do quite yet. So that is definitely what I'm most excited for.
So great. And do you have any advice to ECOPs or early career ocean researchers who are also might be inland and wanting to work with the ocean, that might be looking at wanting to go on expedition but are not sure how to make it happen? Is there any advice that you can give these young people?
Yeah, I have to say, if you would have asked me this like 7 years ago, that if you would have told me I'm having this conversation about getting ready to go on this expedition, I probably wouldn't have believed you, because I really, it was a very nonlinear path for me. So I want to say to all those people that have these aspirations that feel like they're kind of untouchable, that they're not always as far away as you would think, and to really just go for it. Like everything that becomes an opportunity that comes your way, like say yes to it. I went after everything that fell within my reach, and I really think it's because of all these efforts that I got to where I am today. But I also have to say that I reached out to so many people and like cold called them and cold emailed them and just asked them, like, how did you become an oceanographer? Like, how are you doing what you're doing? And I look back and I think, wow, that was so like, it's so strange that
It's very bold.
it was both, and I don't know if I could do that now, but I mean, it it's talking through these people and telling them, you know, how I admired their work, that they either taught me something or they connected me with someone. And this is exactly how I got into the research I did during my master's. Literally emailed Anand Gananjessikan and said, "This is what I think I can contribute to your work." And he said, "How about I hire you as a research associate?" And it just, so my advice to people is to reach out to people that you admire, strike up those conversations, and don't be afraid to say yes.